What's good, everybody? I'm Keandre, this is HoopIntellect, and welcome back to the channel. And we are here at the sort of unofficial start of a new year. It is July or August when you're seeing this, so you can't be too tied to the opinions we have or the things we talk about in this board, but it is a pretty good introduction to the main players in this next draft, and especially those towards the top who I think have a chance of being pretty special. But yeah, we'll talk about 50 prospects in detail, get into a few more after that. And yeah, be sure to leave a like and subscribe if you haven't already. Let's go ahead and get into it. Now, my number one has been Darryn Peterson for a while, but as we head into the year, it started to become maybe the most popular pick, and for a good reason. He's a long-time top prospect, originally from Ohio, but over the last couple years, he's only continued to ascend in a special way, with moments like going for 61 against AJ in Utah Prep and putting together one of the most ridiculous tournaments I've seen from a guard at Rock Hill last year. He has all the tools to be a special overall playmaker as a 6'5", 6'6" guard. He's polished beyond his years, he can take over games, and has shown that he can be an impact defender as well. As a passer, he's solid. There is still some room for growth there if he wants to reach that elite tier, and just knowing the standards that are there for NBA creators, so that'll be something to watch for, but he does have the upside. Now, even in a drought these last couple years post-championship, KU has somehow put together a pretty lackluster roster around him, especially in comparison to the other top three guys, so that'll inevitably shape the conversation this year. But I think he has the talent to be known as one of those Devin Booker and Edwards, even Shea type of guards, so while it is a tough conversation between these guys, he'll likely enter the year as my number one. Cam Boozer is inarguably one of the most decorated high school basketball players we will ever see, and someone that probably deserves a little more respect as an elite prospect. He won 4 Florida State championships, 3 Peach Jams, 2 gold medals, and that's not even mentioning the individual accolades and stats that he put up. He's a 6'9" forward who has great feel on both ends. He can score with physicality and on the interior. He can pass it in multiple spots, shoot on spot-ups, and make plays defensively, and just has a complete game. Now, there will be questions in the pull-up and just how much he can do with the ball as he elevates levels, but there's just so much there to be intrigued by from an already excellent player. He'll likely replicate a lot of what we saw from Flag this year, probably a few more post-ups, and if he has even half the progression as a creator as Coop did, I wouldn't be surprised if he's a National Player of the Year contender. Now, will that mean that he's the number one pick? We'll still have to see what the others do just because they're that talented, but having him number one shouldn't be seen as a surprise or undeserving by any means. I know some don't like comparisons, but for those who are unfamiliar with him as a player, if you think of a more polished and poised version of Paulo as a prospect, it's a lot of P's there, you'll be headed in the right direction. Now, AJ Dybantsa being number 3 is going to catch some people off guard, but I have gone back and forth on where exactly to place him in this top 3 for a while. He's a pretty special talent, the consensus number 1 guy in the class, and someone that's garnered an NIL deal upwards of $7 million to go to BYU, so we'll talk about what makes him great first. He's a dynamic shot creating wing at about 6'9" and has the tools to be a force and put pressure on teams in a number of ways. He's a unique mover who can handle it, shoot the pull-up, shoot off a movement, and get to the bucket when he wants to. And if we're just talking archetype, he's pretty clearly the most appealing of the top 3. Now, I think there's a significant gap there as a decision maker from the other 2 right now. He has improved as a passer, but it is still in question. And then defensively, he's had some excellent moments, but I've been disappointed in his consistency, though you'd imagine that will get better with more stakes and more structure this year under Kevin Young. So there's certainly an argument for him at number 1. He's a big time talent and a cut above from like the Ace Bailey types, but at the moment I give the slight edge to the others. Now, Nate Mint has been a later riser than some of the guys that we've talked about so far, but he's done a lot to put him in these conversations entering the year. He's a 6'9" wing with excellent two-way potential. I'm currently most intrigued by him as a shooter, though. He can also put it on the floor and make a play. And then defensively, he's taken on all challenges, including guarding Darryn Peterson and holding his own in their matchup. And he has quite a bit of versatility on that end of the floor. Now, Tennessee is an interesting fit for him offensively, so we'll see how that goes. He'll also need to improve physically in a way that I could see affecting him this year in the SEC in a significant way. So though the top 5-ish buzz is warranted, he may still be more of a long-term play when next June rolls around. But again, 6'9" wings with fluidity and dribble, pass, shoot, defend upside don't grow on trees, so he's a definite one to watch closely this season. After the top 3 is where things are going to start to get way more interesting, but there's still a lot of intriguing players, one of those being Michael Brown Jr. He's been one of the most impressive guards in this class for quite some time, but he's really started to take it to another level as he's developed slowly physically. He's a 6'3 guard headed to Louisville who is a sound shot maker on the perimeter and a dynamic passer who routinely makes good decisions. He put his game on full display during the U19s and probably should have won that MVP, but he's currently the guy that I like most after this top 3. Now, he is someone that's going to have to prove it at the rim and being able to handle physicality, and even though I really like the defensive effort, you can only go as far as your body takes you sometimes, so we'll see what direction that goes in, but he's got a dynamic as a creator that many other players just don't have in this class, so even if those questions persist, he should still garner lots of lottery interest. Kareem Lopez is a 6'8 wing out of Mexico who spent last year with the New Zealand Breakers of the NBL, and he had an impressive showing as a 17-year-old in that league, and especially down the stretch of the year. He's an intriguing mover, I like his range defensively, and he's had some impressive moments as a slasher to this point. Now I am less sold on him as a clear or lock as a top 5 guy. I didn't like his performance much in Eurocamp. He'll also need to get stronger and improve from that 30% mark as a shooter, but I do think he can be a two-way force on the wing down the line, so he belongs in this mix towards the top entering the year, and we'll see where he goes. Tunde Yesufu is someone you guys have probably become familiar with if you're on socials just because of the similarities he has aesthetically to Anthony Edwards. I'm here to tell you that he is not Ant, but he does have a ton of appeal. He's an athletic 6'5 guard headed to Baylor who plays with a relentless motor and joy for the game. He's often made his name on the defensive end, but more recently he's added a lot as a shooter and self-creator. Now he'll still have some things to improve in the pace, the handle, and decision making to fulfill more of the upside that he has and has shown in different settings like the Nike Hoop Summit. He is also a bit of an older freshman, so keep that in mind, but overall there is a lot to like heading into the year. Now, one of my favorite guys to watch in this freshman class has been UNC's Caleb Wilson. He's a 6'8 forward / big wing with a reported 7'4 wingspan, and his defense has always stolen the show. He can switch when he needs to, he covers ground, he makes timely plays and has great hands. I think he has a chance to potentially be special on this end. Now the offense is still a bit theoretical, at least when looking towards the NBA. He'll finish plays and he's good in the open floor. He has some ball skills and is a solid passer with high level flashes. It's just going to have to come together more consistently along with the shot, but if he can just make progress, there's a world where he's viewed as like the 4th or 5th guy in this class, and we'll see if UNC is capable of delivering one of those again. Now, someone that's been an interesting player to project is Kentucky transfer Jaden Quaintance. He had a terrific freshman season at Arizona State, and despite not even being age eligible for the draft, he was easily one of the best defenders in the country. He has a chance to be special there as a 6'10 forward who can guard multiple positions, create havoc, and make plays all over the floor. His offense is just really the hard part for me. He is bigger, he's shown that he'll shoot it from the outside and has some intriguing moments as a ball handler, but where exactly he slots in offensively is going to be the big question for him this year. The defense alone is enough to keep him in the top 10, but coming off the ACL injury he suffered at the end of last year, I just want to see where he finds his footing on offense. The handles, tough. Houston freshman Chris Sinak has one of the highest ceilings in the class to me. Now the road to getting there is longer than some others, but a 6'10 big with a 7'3 wingspan that can move and has a ton of skills on offense as a floor spacer and shot creator are what make him really intriguing. Now I'm unsure of if he's a true 5 and how willing he'll be to do certain things defensively, but Houston is the perfect spot to push him, and if he can put it together, we could very easily be talking about another guy who gets into top 6 or 7 conversations and is part of what should be another nightmare of a Houston team. Incoming Arizona freshman Koa Pete has been one of the tougher guys to project in this class for a while. I was initially intrigued by how dominant he was as he stepped into high school, especially physically, and to his credit, he didn't really slow down much as time went on. He's a 6'7 forward who has an intriguing game as an interior scorer and defender that brings energy and can make a play in multiple spots. He reminds me a lot of Rui Hachimura, so he is going to have to expand his game beyond 15 feet, and I'm curious to see how he looks as a decision maker in college. But his production has been consistent. He was one of the best guys in the U19s, and even though there are plenty of reasons to be skeptical, he belongs high on watch lists entering the year. I thought LeBaron Philon would stay in the draft after an impressive freshman season at Alabama, but given how high the standards are for guards in the league, I like him taking another year to work on his flaws. He's got a lot in the toolkit as a defender. He's a heady playmaker and someone that looks poised to take on multiple roles with ease. Now, he is going to have to shoot it better. He need to work on his body and show that he can be a consistent pull-up threat, but there's a ton of pieces that I think best case could lead to him being a lottery pick next year. Now, Braylon Mullins is a freshman I'm really excited to see play under Coach Hurley at UConn. He's a 6'5" guard who can truly light it up as a shot maker and shooter. He's super confident, and his decision making is going to help him make the transition to college basketball. He's also a much better defender than I assumed when I was introduced to him, so he's got a lot of pieces that you like. Now, he needs to improve physically, and I'm more skeptical of the creation making him like a top 10 level guy, but he is a good player and someone that I'd anticipate being in first round conversations. It's pretty incredible that in just a year, Bennett Sturts has gone from being a D2 transfer to someone that's near the top of people's boards. He's transferring from Drake to Iowa this year following his head coach, and he'll have a great opportunity to show and prove that he is one of the best guards in this class. He can shoot it, he makes good decisions, and plays extremely well within that offense, and he's had some impressive moments in the clutch and as a creator against the top competition that he has played. He'll certainly be in the first round mix, and the more you love the advanced numbers, the higher you'll be on him entering the year. Virginia's Neo Abdullah is probably the best pick for this year's Kaspers Yakuchonis or Yegor Dioman. Now, he is a bit older than those guys and was actually draft eligible this year, but as a 6'7" guard out of Greece who can take on a ton of playmaking responsibility, has some functionality as a driver and upside from the perimeter, he fits the bill. I would guess he becomes more of a wing prospect wise. He's also not the best athlete and will need to improve as a defender, but he's very skilled with size. He's playing great in the U20s. I definitely recommend going to watch that on him, and that gives him first round upside. Now, I'm fairly high on Thomas Howell coming into next season. I thought he was excellent down the stretch and a huge reason Florida won the national championship. And a 6'8" wing / forward with his connective qualities, spot up shooting down the stretch, and the defensive versatility, that's something that every team can use in some capacity. Now, there will be a lot more attention on him this season, and as an old junior, he'll need to show that he's a cut above to get in this range. But if we're talking about him as a lottery pick or at least borderline next June, I don't think you should be surprised at all. There's another potential Great Barrier thief on the way, and that is Dyson Daniels' younger brother, Dash Daniels. He's a 6'5", 6'6" guard with a knack for making a defensive impact that is so impressive, it gives him some time to at least figure out the jumper among other creation issues that are there in the half court right now. He's also a December 07 birthday, so you got to keep that in mind how young he is heading into this next Stars program in the NBL, but the defense and ball skills keep him a potential first rounder even through some of the rough moments. San Diego State's Miles Byrd was someone who had deserved first round buzz at points last year, and he'll have a great opportunity to build off of that as a junior. He's a dynamic defensive playmaker with flashes as a connected passer and spot shooter. He will need to be far more consistent from deep in at the rim. Hopefully he's able to make some strides physically too, but he has clear appeal as an NBA role player and will have millions in guaranteed money waiting on him if he can just make progress in those spots. Arkansas's Carter Knox had a great finish to last season, and though he didn't end up a one and done, he looks poised to put it together as a sophomore. He's a 6'6" guard or wing who plays with physicality, is an impressive shot maker, and showed upside defensively that gives him obvious NBA appeal. Hopefully he takes the feedback that he got testing the waters positively and shoots it at a higher clip, but first round is certainly on the table. Now, you got to get used to hearing Duke when it comes to prospects again this year. We already talked about a couple outside of Cam Boozer, and Nick Hamenia is one I think could get in these conversations as a freshman as well. He's a 6'8" wing / forward who can shoot it, makes quick reads, and plays well without the ball, and he did all of that in the U19s for Team USA this summer. There will still be some questions in how much he can do with the ball and where they slot him in defensively, but he's got an impressive complementary skill set that could land him in the first round. I didn't get to watch much Dame Sarr in the moment playing for Barcelona last year, but he's someone that has obvious NBA appeal, made some good impressions at the Hoop Summit and through the draft process, and heading to Duke this year, he'll be a key piece for them. He's a 6'7" wing with a 7-foot wingspan. He's got good open floor tools to make plays defensively and has some butting ball skills on the perimeter. I'm most interested in his consistency overall along with the shot, but he's got the dimensions of a clear NBA player, and there's tools there that could make him a first-round pick. Duke's Isaiah Evans is one of my favorite returners. He's a 6'6" wing who shot over 40% from 3 on 18 attempts per 100 possessions. Now, it was limited minutes in a very focused role that had him just shooting whenever he wanted, but I think he has a chance to be truly elite there in a number of ways. If he can first develop physically and just build on the shooting with more of the on-ball stuff we've seen in the past and continue to progress on defense, he'll absolutely be a first-round pick even if he does project as more of a specialist type. Yaxel Lindeborg returning to college was a bit of a surprise to me, especially with the amount of others that also ended up heading back to school, and that's partially because he will be nearly 24 years old when this next draft rolls around, but he'll collect a big paycheck under Dusty May at Michigan and have a shot at showing that the defensive versatility, the physicality, and open floor game is worthy of a first-round selection. He'll need to be more convincing as a shooter, but if he can do that, he'll be in All-American talks and a likely pick somewhere in the 20s. Now, y'all are likely pretty familiar with Tahad Pettiford already, but I am very excited that we get to see him play a second year in college. Now, this should be the norm for most small guards in the NIL era, but Tahad gets more usage this year to show off his creation and shooting gifts and improve as a decision maker along the way. The defense kind of is what it is, but he is a good enough athlete to make up for some things. Now, he had a DUI last month, which is obviously not good, but keeping in basketball, he's someone that you gotta watch for heading into next season. Houston's Isaiah Harwell is someone who unfortunately caught the injury bug in his high school career, tearing his ACL and missing a year, but as he returned, he showed he still has appeal as a 6'5" wing or guard who can win with physicality and has intriguing skills as a shot maker in the mid-range and on spot-ups. He's also a tough-nosed defender, and that should only be highlighted at Houston, so there's a lot of appeal in what he brings, and we'll see how quickly he can show it for the Cougars. There's a bit of a split on whether or not Caden Boozer is a legitimate one-and-done candidate, but he'll likely be in there for me as the season gets underway. He was obviously a big part of the success the Twins had these last several years, and I think his progression can be a bit understated. He's a 6'4" guard with great feel for the game. He's someone that can operate in multiple roles and has a great in-between game. I'm watching for how good of a shooter he is first, and then his defense at the point of attack, though I think the team defense stuff is going to be there. But overall, I see a potential first rounder and someone that could be Duke's X factor this season. Somebody that stood out a ton to me in the last year is Germany's and now Washington's Hans Steinbach. Watching Noah Senge and Ben Saroff in the German BBL last year, Steinbach often popped considering he produced at similar rates, and he was easily one of the best players in the U19s for Germany this summer. A big forward that has good mobility, can finish plays, and makes high field plays is easy to like, and the work on the defensive glass and at the rim helps too. He'll need to shoot it better to avoid some of the tweener talk, but that'll be something to worry about later in the process. I had Dalen Swain in my first round coming into last year, which was a bit too early, but I think he has the potential to get there next year. He follows Sean Miller to Texas from Xavier, and his game is a 6'8" wing who can defend in multiple spots, plays well off the ball offensively and in the open floor, and makes connected plays really stands out. He made great progress physically in just a year or two, and as long as he can show more as a shooter, he's a clear guaranteed contract guy. Now, is he too far away as a shooter to expect that? Possibly, but I think everything else is good enough to be in this conversation. I think if Pat Gongba didn't have the foot injuries coming into college, Duke might have had two centers drafted in the top 25 of this last class. He was terrific on a permanent basis, especially as the year progressed, and his feel, his touch and efficiency around the bucket, and the upside he has defensively make him a pretty clear NBA player to me. So it's the health and an adjustment to a bigger share of minutes that we'll be watching, but if he puts it together, he'll be there on night one of the draft. Braden Burries has been one of the most intriguing scorers in this freshman class, and he'll look to carry that over to Arizona this year. He's a 6'5" guard with the ability to light it up from the perimeter, get downhill to the bucket, and is also a solid athlete. And his rebounding has also stood out to me at different points. Now, he'll need to grow as a passer, and he will be 20 before he plays a game in college, which has always been crazy, but there is enough there to mention going into the year. Darius Acuff was a top 10 player in his high school class and consistently one of the best players in grassroots basketball. And headed to Arkansas, he has a chance of being the next Calipari guard to find major success. He's only about 6'3", but he has a well-rounded skill set, scoring outside and using his pace to get to the paint. He's not the most advanced passer, but he is capable and plays through physicality well. Now, I'm not the highest on him as an NBA prospect. He worries me a little bit as an athlete and as a separator. There's also a lot of mouths to feed here on this Arkansas team, and he's going to need to fully convince as a shooter in this setting. But there is enough there skill set wise, and I've seen him enough to feel okay about having him here to start the year.
Pick up that third. Acuff for three.
Missouri's Anthony Robinson was someone that the stats loved last year. I was a little more skeptical of his offensive game being ready for the NBA as a 6'2" guard, but the defense is absolutely real. Now, I'm not saying that he was bad offensively, because he wasn't. He was actually really good in the pick and roll and has some shot making chops. He'll just need to handle higher usage and shoot it more frequently. If he can do that, I see him surprising people and getting himself on boards pretty quickly. I still have belief in Boogie Fland as a prospect. He's transferred from Arkansas to Florida this year, and I thought he showed a lot of promise as a freshman despite some serious struggles at the rim, which can be a red flag for a small guard. But if he can continue to build on the versatile shot making and actually use that quickness to put more pressure on teams, he'll be in the mix again, especially because he is basically the same age as most freshmen coming in. And overall, I think he's going to benefit a lot from being in that Florida offense. Sergio De La Rey didn't end up testing the waters in the draft this year like I thought he would, but there's going to be real interest in a 6'6" guard who has been as productive as he has in the ACB and Euro Cup as a playmaker and shot maker. He's not a great athlete. He's definitely more of a playmaking wing than a true one as we saw this year, but he's personally one of my favorite international guys in this upcoming class. JT Toppin probably would have left and been drafted last year in the pre-NIL era, but when you got a rumored $4 million on the table to go back and dominate that same level when you were probably going to be a second round pick, you take it 100 times out of 100. He's an interesting prospect. He's super productive on the interior, he's high motor, and a guy that makes a positive impact defensively. It's just a weird fit as long as he doesn't shoot it in, isn't like a wing level defender in space, and isn't also like a lead playmaker with the ball. But the productivity is going to take him a lot of ways, and I think that he can continue to build off of what is likely All-American level production. Alex Condon returns to Florida this year after an impressive run to the national championship. I'm not as high on him as others, but I still think there's a lot there for a contributing big. He runs the floor well, he can finish plays, he's solid on defense, and has good feel for the game generally. I need him to improve physically and start to dish out more in that aspect to get into the first round range fully, but I'd be surprised if he didn't hear his name called at some point next year. Milos Uzan returns as one of the best guards in the country. He was someone I liked a lot after his freshman season at OU, and we saw a lot of that during his second year at Houston. He was a bit disappointing in the tournament, and I'll be looking for him to be more aggressive as a scorer and shooter this year. But he's got a lot of tools as a combo guard and should be on the All-American watch list as a senior. Now, if you remember last year, Jacob Kofi got off to a ridiculous start for Virginia and looked like he might be a surprise one and done. That didn't end up being the case, obviously, but he did continue to be a really intriguing defensive forward and a guy that I believe in long term. He'll be at USC this year for his sophomore season, and if he can build on the defensive playmaking, the movement abilities as a 6'10" forward, and find more of a home on offense, I think he could end up a first round pick, best case scenario. JoJo Tugler is another guy we talked about quite a bit last year, and the pitch remains the same. He's a ridiculous defensive big at about 6'8" with outrageously long arms and a terrific motor. He's going to have to give us more offensively, even if it is just at the rim and from the free throw line, and he'll also need to reduce that foul rate. But he's got some serious potential and should lead a top 5 defense once again. Flory Bidunga had a highly productive freshman season at Kansas despite spending a lot of time playing behind Hunter Dickinson and in other weird lineups. He's a super athlete as a 6'8" big who finishes plays and can defend in multiple spots. He'll have a lot to prove considering he doesn't shoot, he struggles from the line, and is an undersized NBA 5. And no matter how good or how positive an impact he has, it's just a lot less appealing an archetype. But he should benefit a lot from playing next to Darryn Peterson and could be one of those outlier guys. We talked about Johan Grunlo last year as a potential draft candidate playing with Rostovekta in the German BBL, and now he'll be playing ACC basketball for Virginia. He's a near 7-footer who can space the floor and protect the rim, and that gives him pretty obvious appeal in a class that right now looks fairly light on true centers, even accounting for those who we won't talk about in this one. But I think he's got some real talent, and I'm interested to see how well he adjusts to the college game. Someone that took me by surprise last year was Henry Vasar. I'd kind of thrown him to the background considering he missed an entire year with an elbow injury, but he ended up being excellent down the stretch of the year. I'm a big fan of his movement abilities. He's got good touch, and he'll lead the way for this UNC front court for sure. He'll need to be more consistent in his positioning defensively and be more reliable on the glass, but I think he could have a real breakout season for the Tar Heels. Adrian Woolley turned heads as a freshman at Kennesaw State, and now heading to Louisville, he'll have a shot at showing his game on a bigger stage. He's a crafty lefty who can play in multiple roles. He can get his own, he can make plays for others, he's got solid size. He'll be one to watch as one of the highest impact transfers in the country and part of one of the more talented backcourts there is in college basketball. I still believe Cameron Carr has some intrigue as an NBA wing. I liked him a lot coming out of Link Prep. He didn't play much at Tennessee and actually transferred to Baylor at semester last year, but a 6'5" wing with a 7-foot wingspan that can shoot it, defend, and get on the rim as much as he has in these World University games is someone that's bound to make his presence felt in the Big 12 this year. Now maybe it means he'll need another year in college, which could make sense. I feel like it might need to be a star level first round pick type of jump for him to leave in this NIL era, but it should be significant. Now I think we've reached the point where Alex Karaban can and probably should take on some of the Perry Ellis jokes referring to a player that's been in college forever. He's still got appeal as a big wing that can shoot it, has great feel as a team defender, and just kind of knows his role. Now we also know exactly what he does and doesn't do at this point, and he will be 23 next draft, but there is appeal in what he brings, and he's obviously consistently won. I'm still intrigued by San Diego State's Magoon Guath heading into this season. He had a ton of great moments his first year playing, winning Defensive Player of the Year in the Mountain West as a 7-foot forward with good movement skills and the ability to protect the rim at a high rate. And offensively, he showed upside as a floor spacer and play finisher who can occasionally do something with the ball. Now physically, he's going to have to keep improving. He's going to need to stay healthy and fully convinced as a shooter, considering he's not a center and he's also not a true wing as a mover in handling those responsibilities, but I think he could be in for a huge year. Now someone I liked a solid amount after watching him with Austin Rivers and watching for VJ Edgecombe was UCF's Mustafa Chiem. He actually surprised me quite a bit as a freshman. He averaged nearly 3 blocks a game in 30 minutes and showed potential as a floor spacer and play finisher. Now I need to continue getting stronger and improving physically at Cincinnati this year and just nailing down some of that positioning and everything, but he should be one of the better bigs in the Big 12 and show tools that you just can't teach at 7'2". Richie Saunders was quietly really impressive last year for BYU. He is going to be 25 as a rookie, so there's a pretty obvious ceiling on who he can be as an NBA player, but a wing shooter who is a solid athlete, minimizes mistakes, and can finish at the bucket has obvious appeal, and I'd imagine he continues to have excellent moments next to AJ Dybantsa and company. Now if KJ Lewis can make just some slight progress as an outside shooter, there's no way he doesn't at worst get a two-way, so that's why he continues to be here. He transferred from Arizona to Georgetown this year, and his game as a tough point of attack defender and someone that can get to the bucket and make a play for his teammates is all there. He's just got to shoot it more often and at a higher clip. Now it sounds simple, that's a very big ask for him considering he shot 18%, but him being here says more about the belief in the rest of his game than anything else. Now, Georgia transfer Cannon Catchings had standout moments as a freshman at BYU. He didn't play much down the stretch, but a 6'8" wing who makes plays defensively and has the type of shot-making tools he does makes a lot of sense at the NBA level. Now, the hope will be for more physical growth and consistency on offense, but I think he's an obvious NBA contributor if he can put the pieces together. Now, like we said earlier, there is a ton of players that we could continue to talk about that are well in the mix. I wanted to run through some of those here quickly as much as we can at least. There's freshmen like Shona Bayev at Cincinnati. You've got a Shelton Henderson, a CJ Ingram, who could be in this group if they are given the opportunity, among a few others that we'll probably talk about some in the future. You've got scoring guards like an Ian Jackson, a Ryan Conwell, Wesley Yates, and even a Paul McNeil, who have some promise, at least to varying degrees. All of them besides McNeil are in new places this year, so that'll be interesting to watch. I like Josh Jefferson still at Iowa State. Donovan Dent will be one of the best guards in the country. You got a guy like Andrei Stojakovic, who is still intriguing to me. Those last two kind of waiting on seeing where the jumpers are at. And like we said, the bigs are a little light across the board, but you got a Nate Biddle at Oregon, a Tomislav Ivicic, Mofe. I think those guys are some that we could have talked about in detail in this one. But yeah, I mean, we could spend hours talking about more of these guys, and hopefully we'll hear soon in some type of a preview series or something like that. But that's going to do it for this one. If you enjoyed, be sure to leave a like, subscribe if you are new to the channel, and leave a comment down below of who your pick for the #1 pick is entering the year. I think all three of them are great. I think it's going to be a great conversation to see how they grow and evolve over the season. So let me know in the comments down below. As always, I'm Keandre. This is HoopIntellect. Until next time, I'm out.